Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki, Gaura Premanandi. Om Agyantimandasya Gyananjala Salakaya Chakshun Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Stapitam Yena Bhuttale Swayam Rupakaramayam Dadati Swavadantikam Namam Vishnupada Krishnapasa Bhuttale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatare Shatarine Vanshakapa Tubasa Kripasinivevata Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasari Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts, and please kindly give me some blessings so I can say something of a little inspiration. And it's wonderful to be back in Mayapur. So we are beginning a new chapter, third canto, chapter 2. First verse doesn't have a purport, so we read verse 1 and 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'll just read once through the Sanskrit of verse 1 without repeating. Shri Sukha Uvacha, without repeating, sorry. Second one is on the board. Iti Bhagavata Prishta Kshatavatam Priyarayam Prati Vaktum Nakchocheha Out Kantyat Smarityeshvara. Translation. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. Now we have verse 2, and there we will chant. Ya panchaya hayanam matta. Ya panchahayano matta. Pata ashaya chitta. Pata ashaya chitta. Tanaicha rachayan yasya. Tanaicha rachayan yasya. Sapayam balalilaya. Sapayam balalilaya. Ya panchahayano matra. Pata ashaya chitta. Tanaichat rachayan yasya. Sapayam balalilaya. Somebody chant. Ladies? Yaha, Vanhu, Pancha, 5, Hayanaha, years old, Matra, by his mother, Pata Ashaya, for breakfast, Yachitaha, called for, Tat, that, Na, not, Aichad, liked, Rachayan, playing, Yasya, whose, Sapayam, service, Balalilaya, childhood. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He was one who even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. Wow. Purport. From his very birth, Uddhava was a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, or a Nityasiddha, a liberated soul. From natural instinct, he used to serve Lord Krishna, even in his childhood. He used to play with dolls in the form of Krishna. He would serve the dolls by dressing, feeding, and worshipping them, and thus he was constantly absorbed in the play of transcendental realization. These are the signs of an eternally liberated soul. As eternally liberated soul, an eternally liberated soul is a devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. Human life is meant for reviving one's eternal relation with the Lord, and all religious injunctions are meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. The sooner this awakening is brought about, the quicker the mission of human life is fulfilled. In a good family of devotees, the child gets the opportunity to serve the Lord in many ways. A soul who is already advanced in devotional service has the opportunity to take birth in such an enlightened family. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 6.41. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Bijayate. Even the fallen devotee gets the opportunity to take his birth in the family of a well-situated Brahmana or in a rich, well-to-do mercantile family. In both these families, there is a great opportunity to revive one's sense of God consciousness automatically, because particularly in these families, the worship of Lord Krishna is regularly performed, and the child gets the opportunity to imitate the process of worship called archana. The Pancharatrika formula for training persons in devotional service is temple worship, whereby the neophytes get the opportunity to learn devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Pariksit also used to play with Krishna dolls in his childhood. In India, the children in good families are still given dolls of the Lord like Ram and Krishna, or sometimes the demigods, so that they may develop the aptitude of service to the Lord. By the grace of the Lord, we were given the same opportunity by our parents, and the beginning of our life was based on this principle. So first of all, last sentence. Prabhupada often does that when he talks about himself. He says we, right? And it makes a subtle difference. You know, if he would say, by the grace of the Lord, I was given the same opportunity, and my life was based on this principle, it can easily come across like, oh, me, I was doing like this. But if we use we, you know, it makes it a little subdued, you know, so he uses that tool out of humility, you know. But yeah, reading this verse and purport, first of all, I marveled how practical the Bhagavatam is, right? Really, I mean, we can find every aspect of life explained in the Bhagavatam, especially Prabhupada's purports, you know. So practical, how to raise children. And yes, as Prabhupada was saying, his books are the law books for the next 10,000 years for cultured, civilized human beings. So that's why Bhagavatam is so, you know, applicable in practical life, because really, very often we like to study the philosophy and quote it and read it, but we are not there yet in living it. The practical application, there we are a little stuck still. But the whole process of devotional life will only bring about a transformation of the heart if it is actually lived. So just repeating it, not good enough. It's a good start. You know, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, we have it all here in Mayapur. Good start. But then the next step of education is, how do I live it? Practically. And it's actually all there in the Bhagavatam. But yet, we are struggling with it still, you know. So of course, this verse and purport really invites a discussion on raising children, right? I hope you are happy with this, that I just want to focus on this, because this is such an important topic, actually. And I have to admit, for many years, children were not really a topic in my mind, you know? Especially while I was married for 10 years, but Krishna didn't arrange that we had children, so it was not that I tried to avoid it, but no, it just didn't happen. So then often, you know, you're not so focusing on children as a preacher. But I had two really eye-opening experiences when I started preaching in Bangladesh. For the last 24 years, I've been very involved there. And these experiences really were an eye-opener to me. And I do want to share them with you. The first one was, this is really almost 20 years ago, 18, 20 years ago. One of the brahmacharis in Bangladesh, who is meanwhile one of the regional secretaries there. He was at that time a young brahmachari, 23, 24 years old. And he said to me one day, Mataji, our children's programs are more important than our university preaching, our student preaching. And I was struck. I couldn't understand at that time. And I was saying, really? More important than university preaching? And he said to me, yes, child, that's when we have to plant the seeds. Child, we can mold their character. We can establish conducive habits for spiritual development. Once they're students, they already have so many bad habits, so many material desires, and you know, so many mundane impressions. Already we missed our chance. And hearing this from a mouth of a 23, 24-year-old brahmachari, I thought it was remarkable. I mean, you know, here we have a few brahmacharis. would you see things in those terms? That children programs are more important than the youth preaching, student preaching, university preaching? Huh? Be honest. I doubt it that anybody here would have this vision. Right? Yes, yes. But that is actually the transcendental vision. You know, we are actually so much on the bodily platform, and very often we think children are always children, old people are always old people. You know, we forget that just in 10, 15 years, this child is grown up, you know, and we forget. An elderly person was also some time ago youthful, energetic, and we forget these things. So this is a bodily platform, actually. But if we have transcendental vision, we can see it's just going to be a matter of a few years until these little boys are grown up, and then they are brahmacharis, maybe, you know? Yes. And this vision, the devotees in Bangladesh, they have. The brahmacharis, they have this vision. And in this regard, I do want to share another little story, which was really an eye-opener for me. Again, many years ago, 15, 18 years ago, I took one mataji with her 10-year-old son to Bangladesh. And he was known not to be a devotee. He was a bit of a sleepy kid, had no interest to go to the temple, was sleeping till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, just playing computer games. You know, people said, he's not a devotee. So when they heard I would take him to Bangladesh, they were saying to me, Mataji, he's not even a devotee, why are you taking him? So, but then, in Bangladesh, this boy came to life. Amazing. Why? Because the brahmacharis connected with him. And they invited him to stay with them in their room. I made sure one responsible boy was taking care of him. Actually, the same one who made this comment that the children program is more important than the youth preaching. He took personally care of him. And they involved him. They bought him some nice cloth, Swami hat. He knew one tune on the harmonium he could sing and play. On every preaching program, he had his little number where he could do his singing and preaching. This boy was flying in ecstasy. He was coming to every Mangalati. Yes, he was there every Mangalati. And he was washing this brahmachari's cloth. He's my Shiksha Guru. And this brahmachari told him, you have to read Bhagavad Gita 1 chapter every day. He was sitting there reading Bhagavad Gita. I mean, his mother was shocked. She said, what happened to my boy? I cannot recognize him. And that's when I thought, my God, we must be doing something wrong with our children. You know, this was the eye-opener for me. Yes, this experience. And it was interesting to see this boy for a whole year. After 3 weeks Bangladesh, for a whole year, he maintained his enthusiasm. Yes. And he did a preaching program in the school showing slides about Bangladesh. But then after a year, he went down again, you know. Yes, yes, unfortunately, you know. And then I have another little story also from Ukraine. I took one father, also with this 10-year-old boy to Bangladesh. First time 3 weeks. He didn't want to come back. He was crying. Oh, why can't we just all move to Bangladesh? We take grandma along. Let's live in Bangladesh. He loved it. So then 2 years later, I took him again. He was 12 then. So when he came back from that trip, he started dressing life-size Prabhupada Murti every week in the temple. You know, pretty responsible job for a 12-year-old kid. You know, yeah, he was fired up. So then 2 years later again, from then on, he didn't want to go to school anymore. He just did online training. he said goodbye to all his computer friends. Then when he was 18, he got initiated. When he got initiated, he told me, my initiation is because of Bangladesh. Yes. That gave me life. Yes. He's actually in Mayapur now, by the way, somewhere. Yeah, so these experiences made it very clear to me that, unfortunately, we have this conditioning so deeply in us. We take this conditioning into our spiritual practice, and we experience children also within Krishna consciousness as a disturbance, right? Yes. I mean, I'm sure if I would ask who of you has ever experienced children as a disturbance, if you're honest, probably everyone's hands would go up. Right? Yes, yes. That's the problem. That's the problem, that we think they're disturbance. See, because I travel all over the planet and give all these seminars on family life and this and that, so often I come across this, that mothers say, oh, even in front of the child, oh, I can't wait until this child goes to school that I finally can do some service again. Oh, my God, how will the child feel when they hear this? Yes, it's painful, painful, yes. So, of course, I'm very well aware of it, that being mother is such a sacrifice. We have to put ourselves on the back burner. But that's exactly the purifying journey. We have to become selfless, Yes, selfless. This I, me, and mine, we have to put on the back burner. Because even in Krishna consciousness, we can be selfish. My japa time, my reading time, my project, my trip to India, my devotional service, and. So this mine. All right, at least we use it in Krishna consciousness, but it's still selfishness, And that's why being a mother is such a purifying journey, because we have to give up this mine, at least for a few years. Of course, not to such an extent that we don't chant anymore, of course not. But yes, and I observe this all the time. Whenever a mother feels there is something more interesting and more important in her life than the child feels neglected. Yes, child feels neglected. It's very subtle, very subtle. And this attitude we have to change. If we don't change this attitude, doesn't matter how sophisticated our kids' programs become, the child will feel. These kids' programs is just a babysitter program to get us kids out of the way so that the parents can have the fun in the temple room. Yes. As long as we have that attitude, we cannot be surprised if our children don't want to take to Krishna consciousness. Yes, yes. Oh, I heard some terrible stories. I mean, I fully understand that the first generation devotees, they were sacrificing themselves in pioneer spirit for Prabhupada's mission, And of course, that whole understanding was not there, not there. But yeah, one Prabhupada disciple, Mataji, she once told me how a 7-year-old boy, when Prabhupada was still on the planet, he was saying, I hate Krishna consciousness. And everybody was in shock. And they asked him, oh, why do you hate Krishna consciousness? Because Krishna took my mother away from me. That was his answer. Yes, yes, yeah. And saying this, again, I don't want to be critical of this first generation devotees, because it was a different time, It was a different time, and that awareness was not there. And all glories to them. They did a wonderful sacrifice to establish ISKCON. But now it's the next generation, and now we have to change our attitude. Otherwise, our kids will not stay in Krishna consciousness. They have a traumatic experience, you know. Yes. It's a whole big topic. I mean, I have a children's course which I give in end of January, beginning of February in the Vaishnava Academy. It's a topic which I feel a burning importance to get this out. And I do want to read with you. Oh yeah, let me finish this point. So materialistic culture, kids are disturbance, pushed aside. Spiritual culture, the opposite. The children are the center, the children are the future. And that's exactly what we, very naturally, we can experience this today in Bangladesh. That's where I got this whole transformational experience, you know. And now it's just a question of attitude, you know. Rather than ignoring kids, I take every opportunity to interact with them, you know. Just give them a smile, pat on the back, and it's so encouraging for them. And that's exactly what the brahmacharis are doing in Bangladesh. They serve as a role model for the young boys. And they connect with them. Oh, what's your name? How old are you? Oh, good boy. And you know, so, and because the kids need role models. So if they have a brahmachari hero in their life, of course they will want to become a brahmachari. Yes, natural, right? But if the brahmacharis all ignore them and run them over in the kirtan and all this, oh well, then they definitely don't want to become one of those people, you know. It's very natural, right? Yes. And that vision they naturally have. They're not trained in this. It's just natural in their heart. They have that vision. You know, it's just a few short years and then this boy will be grown up, you know. Yes, yes. So I do want to read you a few quotes. One which is not coming from a Vaishnava, but I just find it so amazing. I think we should make this a vision statement for ISKCON. Believe it or not, this comes from a previous president of the US. But it's almost 100 years ago. He was president from 1929 to 33. So that's nearly 100 years ago. So his name was Herbert Hoover. He said the following thing: if we would have but one generation of properly born, trained, educated, and healthy children, 1,000 other problems of government would vanish. We would assure ourselves of healthier minds and vigorous bodies to direct the energies of our nation to greater heights of achievements. Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? Yes, we can Krishnaize it. I mean, first of all, it's amazing that he has some understanding of properly born, whatever that may mean. Not sure if he knows about Garbhadan Samskara, probably not. But I mean, 100 years ago, there was more God consciousness, even in America. You know, and people were praying to the Lord to have a child, you know. So that's why he says, you know, let's read this again in a Krishnaized, ISKCONized version. If we could have but one generation of properly born, trained, educated and healthy children, 1,000 other problems of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement would vanish. We would assure ourselves of healthier minds and vigorous bodies to direct the energies of our movement to greater heights of achievements. Wow. I mean, I really like this. Yes, yes. This should be, you know, the vision of ISKCON, that we really make more effort. And again, I'm saying, we don't need sophisticated programs. The attitude has to change. That's the whole point. You know, it's all about the attitude, you know. Yes. And I mean, as Prabhupada explains in the purport, children learn by imitating, right? Prabhupada mentions it once. Here. The child gets the opportunity to imitate the process of worship called archana by playing with adults. So the kids learn by imitating. And this is why it is such a uplifting journey for devotees to have children, because they have to shape up. They have to be exemplary, right? Even, I mean, there is still so much immaturity in our movement. I hear it again and again that people say, oh no, we get married, but we don't want children. They are a disturbance, they're an obstacle in devotional life. No, it's the opposite. If we take the point seriously, if we really take it seriously, perform Garbhadan Samaskara, you know, that's not only just 50 rounds on the day of conception, but no, you can have a whole prayerful mood and, you know, pray for a great soul to take birth. I mean, we can give birth to a Prabhupada, you know, who makes a real contribution to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Demigods are queuing up. They want to take birth in the Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, but they don't want to just take birth in any family. They want to take birth in a Paka family, you know? Yes. So if we take this topic of children seriously, it puts a whole different dimension to family life. Whole different dimension. I've seen it, how people shape up. They realize, okay, so now Krishna gave us this little soul here. We better be exemplary. We better create a culture of sadhana, culture of kirtan, culture of bhakti in our home, because that's what's required. You know, it's not enough just to lead a mundane family life and have a bit of prasadam and kirtan along the side. No, we have to actually create a culture of bhakti in our home. Then our family life is an ashram. I have a whole book on that topic, Secrets of Success. How to create this culture of bhakti in our home. And then very naturally, the children will become devotees. Very naturally, they grow into it. But if this culture of bhakti is not there, and it's just, don't do this, you have to chant, you can't have chocolate ice cream, you know, this will not be attractive to kids. No, no. The culture of bhakti is what is required. And that requires genuine Krishna consciousness. We actually have to be Krishna conscious. And that's why family life with children is so purifying. Externally, we may not make such a big contribution, but internally, so much deep purification takes place. And then let's remember, there is another ashram after the Grihastha ashram, the Vanaprastha ashram. We forget about that, not established. I give a whole course second week of January on this topic. Please come educate yourself. You know, yes, I have this Institute for Spiritual Culture and I give all these courses in January. Yes, and see, this is because it's not established. That's why easily we take elements from the Vanaprastha ashram and squeeze them into the Grihastha ashram. And that's why people say, yeah, we get married, but we don't want children. We want to travel and preach. And I say, hey, folks, that's the wrong ashram. That's the Vanaprastha ashram. First, let's have the internal purification here. You know, newly married couple, heart full of material desires. How much can we preach? So let's use that sex desire in Krishna service. Bring up a child in Krishna consciousness. And then, in the Vanaprastha ashram, then the sword of knowledge is sharpened. And then we can preach. Then there's realizations, there's life experience, you know. Of course, but to get that, we should get married early and not when we are 48, because then we are missing the boat to the Vanaprasasha. You know, whole thing, you know. But anyway, I do want to read a couple more. I've got the materials for my kids' course here. There is one nice purport where Prabhupada shares very similar thing like this purport. It's 1st Canto, 12th chapter, verse 30. I mean, again, amazing what Prabhupada puts in the Bhagavatam, very personal things. Let's hear this. Srila Jiva Goswami remarks in this connection that every child, if given an impression of the Lord from his very childhood, certainly becomes a great devotee of the Lord, like Maharaj Pariksit. One may not be as fortunate as Maharaj Pariksit to have the opportunity to see the Lord in the womb of his mother. But even if he is not so fortunate, he can be made so if the parents of the child desire him to be so. There is a practical example in my personal life in this connection. My father was a pure devotee of the Lord, and when I was only 4 or 5 years old, my father gave me a couple of forms of Radha Krishna. In a playful manner, I used to worship these deities along with my sister, and I used to imitate the performances of a neighboring temple of Radha Govinda. By constantly visiting this neighboring temple and copying the ceremonies in connection with my own deities of play, I developed a natural affinity for the Lord. My father used to observe all the ceremonies befitting my position. Later on, these activities were suspended due to my association in the schools or colleges, and I became completely out of practice. Prabhupada says. So even if it is temporarily suspended and we become a bit out of practice, you know, in our stage of studies. So, but then Prabhupada continues. But in my youthful days, when I met my spiritual master, I again revived my old habit. And the same playful deities become my worshipful deities in proper regulation. This was followed up until I left the family connection, and I'm pleased that my generous father gave the first impression, which was developed later into regulative devotional service by his divine grace. Maharaj Prahlad also advised that such impressions of a godly relation must be impregnated from the beginning of childhood. Otherwise, one may miss the opportunity of the human form of life, which is very valuable, although it is temporary like others. So detailed. Prabhupada puts in the Bhagavatam, you know, in the Bhagavatam purport. Amazing, you know, yes. Yes, and I mean, there is another one I have. Let me read this. This is actually from Lilamrita, but it is also very nice. It just fits the topic, so we could read that also. So in the Lilamrita, we hear how Prabhupada was celebrating Rath Yatra as a kid, you know. I'm sure we all heard the stories and so on, but reading it is again nice. Like the festival at Puri, Abhai's Rath Yatra ran for 8 consecutive days. His family members gathered, and the neighborhood children joined in a procession, pulling the cart, playing drums and kartals, and chanting. Wearing a dhoti and no shirt in the heat of summer, Abhay led the children in chanting Hare Krishna and in singing the appropriate Bengali. Abhay copied whatever he had seen at adult religious functions. including dressing the deities, offering the deities food, offering arti with a ghee lamp and incense, and making prostrated obeisances. From Harrison Road the procession entered the circular road inside the courtyard of the Radha Govinda temple and stood a while before the deities. Seeing the fun, Gaur Mohan's friends approached him. "Why haven't you invited us? You are holding a big ceremony and you don't invite us. What is this?" "They are just children playing," his father replied. "Oh, children playing," the man joked. "You are depriving us by saying that this is only for children?" While Abai was ecstatically absorbed in the Rath Yatra processions, Gaur Mahan spent money for 8 consecutive days, and Rajani cooked various dishes to offer along with flowers to Lord Jagannath. Although everything Abai did was imitation, his inspiration and steady drive for holding the festival were genuine. His spontaneous spirit sustained the 8-day children's festival, and each successive year brought a new festival with which Abai would observe in the same way. You know, so very nice description, you know, yes. So I mean, having children is such an important responsibility, you know. If a mother thinks it's boring to stay home with a child, she has no clue how to engage a child in ecstatic Krishna conscious activities. You know, she can create Goloka Vrindavan every day, take the kids, collect things in nature, decorate this, that, read stories, swinging the dolls and whatnot, you know. I mean, but we have to be Krishna conscious ourselves, you know. We have to be absorbed ourselves, otherwise we are not creative enough. We don't know what to do with the kids, and we just swing them for 3 hours while we chant japa or something, you know. But no, we have to engage the child in a playful, attractive way, you know. Yes, Krishna consciousness is so colorful, so beautiful. There's so many beautiful things to do with the children, to engage them. And that also makes the parents Krishna conscious, you know. So everybody is winning. Everybody's winning, you know. Mother is the first guru. So if she absorbs herself, how to bring this child to Krishna consciousness, she is 24 hours a day absorbed. You know, yes, yes, because children have a natural attraction, you know. I mean, I had that good fortune. I had a really amazing childhood, even though my parents did not know anything about Krishna consciousness. But my mother was an artist, and she was religious and spiritually inclined. And she engaged us in such beautiful, creative way to prepare for Christmas. We were making all these, you know, this diorama with Jesus and ox and the donkey and Maria and Joseph and all these things, you know. So I'm often thinking, my God, if devotee parents would do the same thing that my mother did, you know, in a Krishna conscious way, oh, then our children would definitely become devotees, you know. Yes. Yeah, so there's so many things to do, you know. So in any case, I do want to leave some time for questions. Not that you're all running off. Yes?
This is not a question, but a short announcement. As you see, Mother Devaki has already published 5 books. And if you have interest, you can pass by and have a look at them. And also there is end of next week, starting the Ekat Chakra Holy Name Retreat, also conducted by Mother Devaki. So a few places are free, so you can inform yourself also about that here.
Okay. Thank you. So let me see if we have some questions. Yes, Puru, we'll start with you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for wonderful class. My question was actually a few years back, I attended one seminar from Child Protection Team. So in that seminar, they were saying a brahmachari should not have any connection with children. So how to create the balance actually?
Well, I know this is the attitude, especially in the Western world, you know. And I mean, is it for the protection of the child or for the protection of the brahmachari?
Both sides.
I mean, see, I dare say, if a brahmachari is a true brahmachari, he can deal with kids. Of course. I mean, you visit Bangladesh. We have hundreds of brahmacharis. Every temple has a solid kids department. How do they call it? Jagrata Chatra Samaj. Right? Anybody who speaks Bengali, Jagrata Chatra Samaj. Okay, yeah, my Bengali is very poor. So they have a solid kids program. And the brahmacharis are involved, although they also coordinate that grihastas also do things, especially for the girls, of course. But no, I mean, that's the culture that brahmacharis do train the boys in Gurukul, you know. It is actually part of our culture. So it just depends where we are on that spectrum of culture. You know, here we have materialistic culture, here we have spiritual culture. So where are we? How close are we to actually spiritual culture? You know? Yes. But that's the point. If a brahmachari is properly situated, the kids will be safe and he will be safe. Even these whole abuse stories we are unfortunately facing, it's a result if people are not properly situated. Yes, let's be clear in this. You know, then the lusty desires come out in some, you know, unwanted and terrible way. So it means people are not properly situated. Yes, yes. Who else? Yes, Per.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for your wonderful class. My question is, the parents are the main people responsible for the kids. Like people who has no kids, but we are part of ISKCON family, what can we do for that kids to give them Krishna consciousness and engage them?
Well, I mean, these are big topics, you know. But let's start with changing the attitude, the awareness, that we understand these kids, it's like planting a sandalwood tree, you know? So you have to wait for quite a few years until you can harvest, you know? It's a long-term thing, but 20 years go fast, you know? So we have to, it always starts with the awareness that we have to become conscious. And as I was sharing, even just a little bit of friendly interaction with the kids, some encouraging words, some sweets, some maha, you know, because that's the point. The kids, they need some heroes, especially once they're a little older, you know, teenagers. Then the parents can't do much at all anymore. There has to be some heroes. You know, and non-devotee kids, what heroes do they have? Actors, rock stars, football players, and. So it's a natural thing that kids need heroes. You know, especially when a kid is 14, 13, 14, 15, mom and dad are not the heroes anymore, sorry to say. You know, no. But if there's no other heroes there, you know, then... yeah, then they fade away, you know. And I mean, we can engage and involve children. We can involve them. You know, as I was sharing, this 10-year-old kid in Bangladesh, he was singing on every big panda program, he was singing his kirtan tune with a harmonium. And Bangladesh, they loved him. Everybody was in ecstasy, and he was flying, you know. Yes, yes. Yeah, so we have to learn, even once they're a little older, 10, 12, they can serve out prasadam, you know, but usually our kids disturb, get out of the way, we do it all ourselves, you know. Yeah, it's the attitude. And we can involve them, but the awareness has to be there, you know. Yes. What else? Maybe something from the ladies' side. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for your class. I have a question. What if a parent feel like they are already in Krishna consciousness and they have 4 children, but every child is different and the ages are different also. So if they have the feeling that one of the kids is drifting away, how can they still engage the kids? Because the age difference is there and they have to like give equal attention to all of the kids. How to deal with that?
Well, this is a very complex question, you know, and also very individual. We have to see, you know. See, one of the important things is that we need guidance. We need a mentor, a counselor. I have a whole book on that topic there too. Any question and regarding family life can be solved if people are just willing to take guidance of a counselor and work on themselves, you know. So in general, I cannot even address this question because it depends on the whole constellation and the situation and the child and the parents and, you know, yes. Anyway, I think we'll close here, because I do want to give some opportunity to those who are interested to check out the books. If I go too long, then everybody will walk out, because there's important topics there. So please let us finish on that note. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I was wondering if we invited you to South Africa, whether you'd come along.